said, did you really explain to this woman the problems? Did you? He said, I conveyed everything that an educator wants to say. I said, well, do you think she got it? He said, no. No. And then I thought about it. I said, you know what, Eddie? You're right. There's no way she could possibly get it. Here's a woman that has never been to an inner city school, but trying to make plans and curriculum and talk about the needs of the school, and you never walked in one.
But you are the hottest cop I have ever been pulled over. And you were so respectful and so nice. You came over, you were communicated what you needed, and then you were hot. See, if the police departments and sheriff hire more hot police officers, we wouldn't have violence anymore. Because all you would do is do what you did, just walk over and say, hey, let me see your driver's license and ID. And do that smile right there. Sir, you could bring peace to the Middle East. And I just want you to know, as I thoroughly watch you walk to your car and back, I just want you to know, I could tell you work out, and I'm glad and I'm appreciate that God helped you to work out, and He did a great job on you. Yes.
Welcome to Workshop Wednesday. Welcome to We Work Every Day. 7 days a week, cause we striving towards a better day. Don't cut me down for showing my true colors. Love me for me, cause I show love to others. This is for entrepreneurship, for Black Lives Matter. This is for the ones who are forgotten. I pray we never go backwards. This is for pushing forward in the face of adversity. Thank you, God, for protection when the world was cursing me. This is for strength, courage, and wisdom. They can't keep us in shackles. You're the one that could change the trajectory of those family matters. Be the first college grad, be the first millionaire. Be your own wildest dreams, cause the world ain't fair.
I had to tell a guy, he's a Latino student. He asked me, why do Black girls have that attitude? Because one of the things I'm really sitting down due to the current climate, we're having a lot of race discussion conversation. And not only are we having these conversations, we're coming with plans of action. What can you do to stop this ongoing race war that's going on? And so what I allowed them to do was, I want us to sit down and talk and ask those questions that you've been thinking about, but you were scared to ask. I had Hispanic kids asking about slavery and making the connection between slavery that Black people went through and comparing it to how the United States of America under the Donald Trump administration had Hispanic kids locked up and separated from their parents in cages. In that session, our kids, as we were talking, I'm seeing the kids become more compassionate and empathetic to each other, going, whoa. But the little Hispanic guy, when he asked about Black girls' attitudes, why do all Black women have attitudes? I said, no. He said, well, I don't get it. Why do they do this and this, that, and the other? I said, I can't think of the poet inside of Beyonce's video when she's doing the song Flawless, when they're talking about the most mistreated woman on the planet has been the Black woman. And I said, throughout history, Black women have to endure slavery, watching their kids stolen from them, sold off, this, that, and the other, being raped, being this, and yet they're still expected to stand and be strong. It's almost like society won't allow Black women to be vulnerable. I said, so a lot of times the attitude that we put off is a defense mechanism because I have to protect me. So after telling him that, he was like, whoa. So what you're really saying is Black women need love and opportunity and somebody to be. I said, yes. Little did I know he had a crush on a little Black girl in my classroom. So the next day when the little girl came to class, he runs up to her and hugs her and says, I love you and I will bear the burden with you. I died laughing. I said, oh my God. Jose, sit down. What are you doing? And she looked at him, what's wrong with you? He said, I understand. And I'm not going to let anybody hurt you. I got you. And I'm like, oh my God. Little, I guess to say, at the end of the day, he wore her out. And they ended up, this was like their 10th grade year, they ended up going to prom together. Both of them graduated from college and they're married and they're on their second kid.
Oh, wow. Look at you being a matchmaker.
I didn't know. But it took having that conversation for them to get it. Black men, I said the same thing happened to black men. I had to explain to them how the Willie Lynch theory not only works in Black culture, but it's doing the same thing in Hispanic culture. It's teaching that everybody has a role and this is your place and don't step out of your place. Unfortunately, sometimes the educational system that we're under now is teaching the kids the exact same thing. One of the things I asked Eddie B when he met with the former Secretary of Education, Betsy the Devils, no, that's the devil. I said, did you really explain to this woman the problems? Did you? He said, I conveyed everything that an educator wants to say. I said, well, do you think she got it? He said, no. No. And then I thought about it. I said, you know what, Eddie? You're right. There's no way she could possibly get it. Here's a woman that has never been to an inner city school, but trying to make plans and curriculum and talk about the needs of the school, and you never walked in one. Yeah, no, I haven't. I can't expect them to understand when you don't have the same life experience. You haven't walked in these kids' shoes. And at the point, you don't even think enough of them to go and find out. One of the most hurtful things as an educator, and it ticked me off, and I was upset with the state of Texas. I was on the committee that was dealing with the reconstituting of the school, and we had to meet with the federal people from the federal side of the government and this, that, and the other. And we were talking about all the things that we were doing to help our students. And at that point, our test scores, we were struggling. And we were trying to work with our community, these kids, get kids up to par. And one of the things we were saying, well, look, we have these other programs in place to help our kids. We have the No More Victims program to help kids who are from incarcerated parents. Miss Marilyn Gambrell made a phenomenal program. They did a Lifetime movie on that story and that program. And inside that program, not only did they dealt with children who either one or both parents were incarcerated. They were like a social therapy group for kids who had other issues going on. I went to one meeting and I said, Miss Gambrell, I love your children, but I cannot come back. She said, why? I said, I was dying inside, hurting for those children. So when we were talking to the federal government, talking about all the things we were doing, it ticked me off to hear a man that's a man that's not of color to sit and say, that's wonderful that you're doing all those things for the kids. But at the end of the day, y'all are responsible for reading, writing, and arithmetic. And y'all not meeting the mustard. So basically, the way he made his statement and presented it, it was like, to hell with all that. Y'all not passing these tests. Well, sir, ask us why we are not passing these tests. These kids need emotional help. These kids, when it comes down to struggling and getting a meal, a day-to-day meal, and reading this book, to hell with that book. We have to meet the children in urban cities, our males and our females, where they are, and try to address their needs. Because these, I call them survivor kids. Children of color are going to survive, whether you assist them or not, the best way they can. And so until we start doing that, and I'm hopeful under the Biden administration that we can do those things. We can do a lot better. We can change how we educate. Because this standard day-to-day stuff that we're doing is not working, because no more no child left behind. We're leaving all of our children of color behind one at a time, and our men of color we're leaving behind in droves because we refuse to meet their needs.
And I'm listening to you talk about how you were on that committee that was a part of the whole uh, consolidation of when they took over the district. And um, I just know that when they did that, I can guarantee that the scores have really not transitioned that much after they consumed that district that was run by majority African Americans. Because it was an all black district run by all African Americans, and they allowed a larger district to consume it. But I can almost guarantee you those same schools that were struggling are still struggling. It was just the fact that it was a black district. But I'm not gonna talk about that. I'm gonna
go there, but what I will say about this, because that's another, I need to write a book about that. And that's a whole nother interview, girl, because I am so ready to talk on that. And I'm literally, I got to speak with my lawyer and see all of what but the story, the true facts of that need to happen. And I'm going to say this. The scores, we bust our butts. Before they closed that district down, we made major gains.
I know, because I had a lot of, like, I have a colleague right now, one of my friends, I hired her to work with my company, and she's coaching my science teachers, and the scores she was able to achieve there, she has gone to Klein, and she's been the top performing science teacher at Klein. She's gone to Cypress, she's been the top performing science teacher in Cypress, and I'm like, she came from North Forest, right?
And let me tell you, in the forest, we call it the forest, because when you're from the forest, that's what you call it. We learn to teach bell to bell, be innovative, creative. We learn to teach with technology and without technology. That's why so many, when I transitioned into Aldine, that was one of the first things that was told to us. We love North Forest teachers because you guys didn't have a lot, but you taught. I remember sitting in Travis County Court and listening to one of their board members at that time say, we don't need to take over this district. We don't do enough for the children in our own corridor. As a matter of fact, their test scores were better than now. See, we have to get the politics, period, out of education.
Because I left, I think I left and I went to Aldine. And I left Aldine mid-semester to take a promotion. And when I left the sub, but I left them with all of my plans. And my scores were still high, although I left mid-semester. I left like in February. But I had prepared my students because, like you said, I came from North Forest. So I knew how to, drill them up, prepare them up. And I left my kids saying, look, I understand what it's going to be, but I have to do this, But it's just, how to do what you can with minimal.
One of the things I was taught in North Forest, we don't care if the lights go off. Education is going to take place. Period. When I was hired at the school I'm at now, one of the things the lady said, well, ma'am, the textbooks haven't arrived because this is a brand new school. So would that be a problem? Is there anything we need to do? I said, well, I got it. She said, but you didn't hear what I said. The books aren't here yet. They're coming. But, because we're in new school, I said, I got it. I said, North Forest. And because I'm a competent educator in my craft from the Texas Southern University, I really don't need that book. We didn't get the books to the school until like October. I had lesson plans, teach objectives, this, that, and the other. She said, this is why we love hiring North Forest teachers. She said, because I think if I would have hired some of the other people I interviewed, as soon as I said the books weren't here yet, they had to look up, what am I doing? You were like, okay, let's go. But one thing North Forest taught me in how to educate children is that number one, you have to be student centered. You have to walk in that child's shoes. You have to think of the struggles that child is going through and make accommodations without making excuses. So many teachers, when we see a kid is sped or this, that, and the other, we treat them like they're handicapped and they can't do anything. We look at, and it is, and what's sad is it most frequently happens with young Black men.
Yeah, because although they represent the minority in the school system, they represent the majority in special education. And that's what I wrote my dissertation on.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times you have to look at the judgmental categories. We're not going to get into that. Let's go into third question.
Okay.
Topic, third question.
Okay.
What are some strategies that your parents use, Miss Jermany, that allowed you to walk in the freedom and salvation of knowing that you are walking in your true purpose? Because right now, our parents, they need to know how to encourage greatness because our kids are lost. They're trying to figure out how to navigate this virtual world, and
Mm-hmm.
they're lost. So what did your parents do to build you up? Because you've gone through a lot of tough things.
Mm-hmm.
So how did they instill that thing in you to like have that wickedness to kind of like keep bouncing back and keep going?
First and foremost, my parents are Christians. My parents put the love of God in my heart, on my mind, and my soul. Period. Point blank. My strong connection with God is one of the most important, is the most important thing that my parents introduced me to. Period. The next thing that my parents instilled in me was the history of my culture and how important me being successful was for not just the family, but for the culture. They not only told me about the slavery and the civil rights movement, my dad and mom wanted me to know that, hey, I need you to know we came from kings and queens. And how did they do that? My parents made me read. My dad, a motto was, if your teacher didn't give you homework, I'm going to give you homework. My daddy made us read every day. You have to read something. Turn the TV off. My dad set a schedule. It was understood what the expectations are. If we don't set expectations for children, they're not going to know what expectations to conform to. They're going to be loosey-goosey. You have to set a standard, a level of expectation, what's required. We knew as soon as we got home from school, whether my dad was there or not, we knew to take care of that homework before we got in that house. We had to study. And I get it with this generation of parents, everybody's working. I had a student that mom, it was his senior year parent night. That was her first football game she ever attended since the boy was playing his ninth grade year. So parents are having to make all these sacrifices and work all these ends and odds and jobs, and God bless them to survive. But we have to find a way to work, spend time, and invest time in what their children are doing. My dad at one point worked 2 and 3 jobs, but he made time. If it wasn't but 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes in between him coming in from one job and getting some rest, I need to know what my kids are doing. And I encourage parents, I know we're out there working hard, we bleeding the block for work, But we have to get that time in. Stop letting the internet, Google Chrome, Schoology raise your kid. They need to see you actively involved in what they're doing. I didn't make it to cheerleader because, okay, I couldn't jump. Okay. I didn't make it for majorette because I was a little chubby. Okay. I became a football equipment manager, and my dad would come to my games and cheer for me like I was a star quarterback. He would sit with the other parents. Well, my child's in the band, my child's a majorette, my child's this, my child is this. And what's your child? My child is down there picking up cups and taping your child's ankle. And he was proud. Parental involvement is so important because when they see that their parents are involved, that their parents care, their parents are going to check up on them, and they're wholeheartedly invested in what they're doing. That's what helped me. That's what my parents did for me. Also, my parents made me responsible and held me accountable for things. A lot of times in this generation, we have kids that do what they want when they want, and our parents are directly and indirectly teaching them that excuses work. My dad, before I pledged, my dad had told me excuses were tools of incompetence that build monuments of nothingness. Or better yet, as my mom would say, you got more excuses than a man going to jail. They did not tolerate excuses. They can understand mishaps and they can work with you, but they made me understand and think through what I did, why I did, the pros and cons of it, and what I'm going to do different. And most importantly, have conversation with kids. Spend time. A lot of parents don't know their kid. My dad knew that I was going to do something in entertainment. And he told me a long time ago, he said something in entertainment or teaching school, because my favorite game to play was teaching school. And then when I got through playing teaching school, I would pretend I was Diana Ross and hold concerts. And so my dad, I know she's going to do one or the other. But that active involvement is so important. And we have to find a way to prioritize putting that into our children's lives, because those, honestly, that's what my parents did for me. And they believed in the spare the rod, spare the child. I was disciplined. Discipline is important. My dad, most important lesson he taught me was how to discipline myself. You need to know what's right and wrong. You need to think things through. And so my parents were always my number one supporters through the good, the bad, and the ugly. My dad, when I used to go to UIL competitions, my father would tell me, kick butt. I'm expecting superior when I pick you up. And I was like, damn, I gotta do this because my daddy say I gotta do this. Because my daddy and my mama know I can write shop and poetry and prose and get up in. I know, baby. My dad treated my awards at UIL like I won a state championship. And he would brag and post those things up. So we were talking about earlier, diversifying and encouraging our children. We need to focus on the positive. If I messed up, I got it. But my dad and them continuously encouraged the positive. That positive praise worked. Because you can only be a person down for so long. And by doing those things, that gave me this sense of invincibility. I can do everything. Why? Because my daddy told me I could do everything. My daddy and mom gave me the skills to know I could do everything. I am that girl. My dad used to tell me, oh, you can do that. What's your last name? Jermany. What's your last name? Jermany. He taught me to be prideful, to have confidence. My dad said, if don't nobody in the world believe in you, you believe in you. You show people better than you don't have to say nothing. I went through a point in time where I had family members to say derogatory things about me. She now graduated. My daddy said, when did you start caring about other people? He said, I said, well, Daddy, I'm a cuss them out. So you don't have to cuss them. Show them better, you can tell them. And the same person that talked noise about me and said some derogatory things when I graduated from college, instead of mailing their graduation invitation, even though they weren't deserving of a graduation invitation, I personally dropped it off. And I didn't say an ill thing to them. I just wanted you to know I made it. So those are the things that my parents did to push me. And if more parents can do those things, our kids are really phenomenal. They just don't know it. They haven't been pushed enough. They haven't been encouraged enough. We haven't embraced and focused on the good that they're doing. And if we do that, the kids will be fine.
That's excellent advice, because as parents, we do give it our all. And there's always that one little tiny voice of doubt, not coming from you, but the naysayers. And
Mm-hmm.
you're putting your all into your child. And it gets discouraging for them because they're doing they're doing all they know how.
Mm-hmm.
So, what advice would you give parents and teachers? Because, as a teacher, you're also going through this virtual shift right now. So, what advice would you give parents and teachers to support students that are struggling to find that strength to stay motivated during this virtual shift? Um, and what they actually are seeing going on around them right now during this season, because we just got our new president.
Thank God.
Our mask mandate is gonna be lifted in a little bit, like next week. I know. So like, what would you? What advice? Because it seems like it's changing day by day. We don't know. Like each day, we think we kind of get to a level of stability, then all of a sudden something else changes. So
Mm-hmm.
what advice would you give during
I
this?
tell I tell my students, number one, stay focused. Stay focused. Know who you are, what you want. Stay focused on the goal. I say, I don't care if the house is burning down, stay focused. Two, be observant. There's a gospel song that says sometimes you have to encourage yourself. Stop waiting for other people to pat you on the back. If you know you did the best you can, you pat your own self on your own back and be proud of you. Virtual school, and I would tell teachers, it's okay if you don't know how to do virtual school. I had to learn. And it's okay to tell the kids, look, I'm learning like you learn. So let's learn together. Virtually doesn't mean that I'm not reachable and I'm not touchable. I have Google Meets every day, 9 a.m. and at noon. I use that as an opportunity to check on my kids. Because sometimes a hey baby, how you doing? Will inspire that child and build that relationship so you can connect with them and push them. Another thing I tell parents to do is be actively engaged in the battle with your child. Because these kids are in a battle. And they're not going to win unless we're all engaged. Sit down at the computer with your child and say, baby, I understand. Like my mom used to tell me, this new math. I don't know about new math. But my mom and dad sat down with me and shared that same experience with me and walked with me through it. Another thing, focus on something positive. It's so much negativity going on. And even in some of the things that our kids are intaking into their spirit, from the derogatory raps to the love and hip hop. Don't get me wrong, I love a little ratchet TV too, but I know how to turn it off. Use this COVID season as a time of exposure, virtual learning, not just for academics, but for social, emotional, and personal development. Encourage them to read books. I used to think it was crazy that in college, my roommate used to have all these positive affirmations all around the room. I kid you not, every morning I would wake up and read a positive affirmation. I also learned how to sit in silence because sometimes you need silence. Spend some time getting to know yourself. Then I encourage my students and the family to watch television together and have conversations about the things that they see. Our students used to have this perception: if a white kid come in class, they have to be smart. They know it. But when they saw our last administration, thank God that's gone, they found out, wait a minute, how can you be president and you don't know that Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States? This is an opportunity for them to point out what they don't like in their country or what they see in the world. So let's talk about some positive changes you're gonna do. And I know virtual. I'm gonna be honest. I hate social media, but because as a comedian you have to do it, I despise it. It feels like I'm in an abusive relationship with Facebook and Instagram, and me and Twitter have broken up. Me and TikTok can't ever make it work. But use this time to spend time with each other and pulling away from technology. This project that my students are doing, they're learning that it's relaxing. They're stepping back and taking pride in the work that they did with their own hands without Google. But the most important things that parents can do is keep their child motivated by spending time, having conversations, taking that journey with their kids. Do it together. We cannot let virtual learning take us out mentally and spiritually. One girl said, Miss Jermany, we haven't had a pep rally. And I missed that about school. So on Friday, I said, we're going to have pep rally Friday. I set up a Zoom. And we had our pep rally on Zoom. We played music. Everybody had to do something. Use this opportunity, this time, to not focus on what you can't do. Let's be creative and find out what we can do. Because again, you're giving them exposure, experience, and building confidence, the tools that they need to be successful. Because we all need, and educators, I know we're going through a hard time, but educators and parents, this is a time where we need to come together and support each other. Teachers are in the trenches, and at times we feel like we're drowning because everything that goes wrong is our fault. Parents, reach out to those teachers and say, you know what, thank you. Thank you. You don't have to call me every time my child doesn't do something, or, because I realize you have a life and you have children. You're taking away from time with your kids to deal with my kids after 5 o'clock. Tell that teacher thank you. Send her some inspiration. Teachers, in turn, call the parents and say, you know what, I'm just checking to see how you doing. When this freeze thing happened, first thing I did was let me check on my babies. Hey, y'all good? Y'all okay? And my kids and parents, thank you so much for checking on us. We need each other. I hate to sound corny, but it's like the Lion King, Hakuna Matata, the circle of life. We all are interconnected to each other, and we all need motivation and understanding that we're all in this together. This boat will never sail if we don't come together and do the paddling together and paddle in the same direction. So those are some things. Just stay strong and stay together, stay connected.
Thank you so much for those encouraging words and everything you said. And as parents, I'm a teacher, and it's kind of, we need, as a parent, you have like tunnel vision, and we need that encouragement. And although I'm a teacher, I can't teach my child. He'll tell me, "Mama, don't worry about it." He'll listen to his teacher before he listen to me as his parent.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do need that encouragement from our children's teacher. Even when you are a teacher, it's the weirdest thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we the partnership is one of those things, like we
Exactly.
all have to get through this storm together.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I know you are in both of these worlds. What are some things that you have coming up that the viewers can support you on? I know I met
Well, Hunty, I'm glad you brought that up.
yeah.
Um, we just started doing the step shows. The kids are into the step show things. So we just did the first one back in January. Of course, we had to follow all the COVID rules because the kids need an outlet. So we started doing those, but on a smaller scale. And what's a blessing about it, um, a couple of superintendents from some out of state districts came and they took part and just observed, and they liked how things were going. So now they're scheduling us to go to Florida during spring break, and we're going to Philadelphia, and I'm the host. And what I love about doing that particular hosting gig is you get to let loose, have fun. I make a butt out of myself when I try to do all their dances. Kids love it to see when their teachers trying to do the mop, and you really can't mop, and you look like you're sweeping. Okay, I have that coming up. I'm also this summer scheduled to go to Vegas. We did a pilot for Laugh or Loot here in Houston, and so this summer we're going to start filming in Vegas. Loot or Laugh. I'll have shows coming up April 3rd at um, Grooves Houston. Um, I do have I have to find out the date that they're going to air it before COVID tried to demolish everything. I was picked for ridiculousness for my video that went viral to show on their television network. And then I'm also in the process of finishing a book in reference to telling my story of how, as an entertainer, and I love telling jokes, I love educating and motivating people, how I was at a point where I contemplated suicide. I dealt with depression. I dealt with some of the issues that some of my students and some of my parents, and a lot of people look at me and like, you? Yes, me. And when my book is not to tell a sad story, but a victorious story of a woman who had to deal with a physical ailment that enabled her from having children, and the struggle and the process I had to fight through to become whole and to continue to stay whole. Um, I'm gonna tell a lot of funny stories, but I want to educate women through my personal experience so they will be enlightened on how they too, despite uh, the inability of having children, you can still be a mother. You can still be happy and accept the body that you have, love it, and move on. I haven't created the title yet, but that's what it's dealing with, because I thought at one point I was the only woman that dealt with fibroids. I was embarrassed to tell people that I couldn't have children. I was this, that, and the other. And I never thought, you're a comedian. How dare you think of, committing suicide? I was at that point. And I kid you not, between the grace of God and a comedian by the name of Derek Keener, Stacy Anderson, Brandy, Carlos Wallace, Texas Southern University debate team. God, most importantly, had to do a lot of pulling me through that moment, but it made me stronger. Now I can look back at it, reflect on it, and tell the stories and be okay. And I want it to be a book for empowering women. And then as we work through COVID, I'm looking forward to producing my next one woman show. My last one was great. It sold out, then COVID. It was called The Becoming of Vanessa Huxtable, How to Survive Brokedom. I'm looking at bringing that one woman show back and doing some touring independently on my own with that. So my company's called Funny Girl Entertainment. Yes, women are funny. I'm looking to do more things in the industry to empower more female comedians, because a lot of times it's hard when people talk about how pay is not equal and how women are not being treated fairly in corporate America. Is happening in comedy as well. So I want to do more with my company in producing more things for women and women of all color, especially women of color, because it's extra hard for us. So I have a lot of projects, a lot of things that I have going on, and I'm excited. I just, like I told my students, we're not gonna let COVID give us the blues. We're gonna fight through this together. So I'm excited.
I'm loving everything that you're
Mm-hmm.
doing, and it is so amazing to hear what you're saying. And I know that your book is going to inspire so many women. Even
Mm-hmm.
before we started your interview, we were sharing stories about
Mm-hmm.
surgeries, and I ministered a sermon about the woman with the issue of blood, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what it is. It's like when
Mm-hmm.
a woman pressed towards Jesus, when you talk about the issues with the fibroids, it's so similar. And how, she had distanced herself from her family. She felt so isolated. She was the only
Mm-hmm.
one, and she was pressing towards in faith. And when she touched him, she was instantly healed. And how
Mm-hmm.
I always feel so isolated in our
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
And black women, and I think, and again, this is not going to be a sad book. This
It's
is a victorious book. I'm gonna tell you some crazy stuff that I have done in my lifetime to get to deal with it. Um, but the miseducation that black women are receiving to their own health is a problem. The same way we're the miseducation of Lauryn Hill and the miseducation of children of color, we are doing a lot. There's so much miseducation being promoted in African American women's health. It's no wonder we're on the high spectrum of all the negative statistics. I want black women and women of color to be empowered with their bodies and learn facts. You're paying these doctors all this money through your insurance, through Medicaid, whatever. They need to give you the services you need
Yeah,
and explain things. Mm-hmm.
and we have to encourage each other. And what's always been so eye-opening to me as black women, it's all these shows about how we have to fix each other. But you don't see many shows about white women having to be fixed. It's always the black
Mm-hmm.
woman that has to be fixed. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited that you're writing about how we can encourage
Mm-hmm.
and uplift, because we
And
are always that broken and we have to be fixed.
exactly. Everybody has a broken spot on them, but that does not mean you are broken. And that's one of the things I tell my parents and even my students. We have to teach our kids that it's okay to fail. It's not okay not to try. And it's not okay to fall and not get yourself up. Our kids have a fear of rejection and failure. And I tell them all the time, do you think Bill Gates got it right the first time? No. So you may not. But if you get yourself up and keep trying, you gonna get it. And I always tell, especially with especially with my women of color. I say women of color. Every time we look up, we are in all of these negative stereotypes. Okay, are these negative statistics? But did you know we are the number one group the #1 demographic of college graduates. Come on now. Black women, people are intimidated of your beauty and of your intelligence. So why are you walking around with your head down? People beat you down to get to your mentality to make you feel that you are down. No. People do that because they know who you are and they're intimidated.
Because
That's it.
we persevere.
Persevere through it.
Yeah. I think that's a good note for us to end.
Okay.
Yeah, we persevere. We persevere through adversity. Thank you.
Got to.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you
for your time and all of the nuggets of wisdom you've given.
Oh yeah.
I can't wait for your book to come out, and once it comes out, hopefully, you'll be able to come back and
oh yeah, I would love to.
And tell us about everything and how that journey was for you. I can't wait to hear about it.
Oh yeah.
So it's so many of us that suffer in silence with things in matters of the heart. And especially now, because like you say, we are the most educated, and many times that does come with sometimes a sacrifice with that. And some of us do wait for a time before we enter that phase of family. And that also may lead us to a place similar. So women may find themselves in that place and need that encouragement to keep pressing forward.
Oh yeah.
And I know that encouragement that's in those words that you speak will be very good for that time and that season. So I'm looking forward to having you back, and thank you so much for
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Until we meet again.
All right.
Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Continue to support Workshop Wednesday and continue to encourage all those that you see to press forward during this time. Thank you for tuning in. Dr. Kiki signing out. Stay tuned on next week where we will bring you more of H-Town's finest. Take care. God bless.
This is for strength, courage, and wisdom. They can't keep us in shackles. You're the one that could change the trajectory of those family matters. Be the first college grad. Be the first millionaire. Be your own wildest dreams, cause the world ain't fair. I am the greatest. I am the one. Lead the